Hello, hello, and you in the back, hello. I love sales, yes. And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm coming out of the sales closet to say I enjoy persuasion and communication skills, okay? I just like knowing how to talk to people well, and I think it's pretty obvious to see my enjoyment that I get from watching a simple sales conversation.
This is where you need to be. Business, but actually isn't building.
Oh! I am the opposite of a natural in sales by any means. I grew up the youngest of 3 kids. And being the youngest, if you ever had an idea or something you wanted to do, something that was important to you, you would share it to the world. Being the youngest, you get told to shut the fuck up. And instead of me developing that skill of like, oh, I really gotta learn how to do this now so I can get my ideas heard, I grew up and did just shut up. I did not learn or develop any of those skills. I was actually hindered growing up in high school. Like, I didn't know how to make any kind of cohesive argument. I was a terrible communicator. So adult Ethan kind of took up sales as a hobby because I just got so sick and tired of sucking at managing conversations, and I just wanted to be able to direct conversations in the way that I wanted it to go. And so if you see when I was 18 years old, way back on my YouTube channel, when I started my social media marketing agency, most of my content at that time was just naturally geared towards sales, cold calling and prospecting and sending out outreach. That all just seemed interesting to me, even though I really could have focused on any aspect of an agency, from running the Facebook ads and the media buying to the finances to the leadership of a team to the fulfillment and, customer service, all that stuff. I was like, no, sales to me is like the coolest stuff. So as a sales enthusiast, I've just read a lot of different books and concepts on this topic, and I found 5 to be the most transformative, not only in my career closing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 deals, but also just to use it on my siblings. It's like, oh, you don't want to see the movie that I want to see? You just activated my trap card, and I just whip out all the objection handling tools that I have in my belt, and then they fold like a piece of laundry done by a Filipino lady down the street. I don't know where that came from. So without further ado, book number 1 is Socratic Selling. My God, this is the first book you want to read on sales, and let me tell you why. So I actually made a video on this book back in 2021 because I just loved it so much. And the biggest area this helped me improve my sales was I just asked better questions, and it also specifically made my pitches so much better. The improvement to my pitches was like twofold. Like, I was able to close twice as many people simply because I was asking questions throughout the pitch. Before, I was talking to someone for like 15 to 20 minutes, and then at the end, I'd be like, so, do you like what you see? And they'd be like, fuck no. But with this book, I asked questions, like strategic questions, throughout the pitch. And throughout the pitch, I did this thing called tie downs, which I tied down each section of the pitch to make sure that they were bought in, they liked what they were hearing, and I could just move forward on the next step. Like I said, completely changed my close rate, probably doubled what I was doing. Number 1 book you should read. Just a side note, the reason why it's called Socratic Selling is because it's based off of Socrates. And if you don't know, Socrates is like the OG philosopher. Socrates was the kind of guy who would walk around town and just mind fuck people by asking them the most insane questions. So if you actually go into Plato's dialogue, you can actually read Socrates mind fuck people on the street. And what was interesting to me was he wasn't asking people questions with an end goal in mind of getting them to arrive at a certain point. He was asking them questions to just really get a basis of understanding of their thinking. And if their thinking had faulty lines of logic, he would then ask them questions to have them realize their faulty lines of logic. If you're selling an offer that's going to save the prospect 40 hours of time or something like that, and they say sorry, I don't have the time to invest into this. I have the money, but not the time. Me just saying that to you, it sounds fucking stupid, but you'd be surprised about the amount of flawed logic that people come to on these sales calls. And it's great to be able to just be like, bro, you're not making any sense right now. Okay, that's it with Socratic Selling. Book number 2 is The Challenger Sale. Okay, you can skip this book. You don't have to read it as long as you can understand just one concept from this book, which is the salesperson who makes the most money at the end of the day will always be the salesperson who challenges the prospect's beliefs and logic. Those beliefs might be about their business or how they're approaching their exercise. It really depends on what it is you're selling. But just like Socrates, you're having a dialogue with them that is quite similar to a debate. You challenge why they believe what they do and see if you can bring them onto your side. And that, my friends, is when you make the big bucks. Book number 3 is Discover Questions That Sell. I also made a book review of this in 2021 because I loved it so much. So once you understand that you have to direct a conversation Socratically by asking questions, and you understand that you're doing that in a way where you're challenging the prospect, you're challenging their beliefs and logic, well, then the next question that might come to your mind is like, well, how do I do that exactly? Like, what are the questions that I need to ask them to challenge them and challenge their logic and this stuff? Well, discover questions that get you connected, gives you a laundry list of like hundreds of these questions, and it gives you like lots of examples, and I have used all of them. I've battle tested all of them. I've seen firsthand which ones work and which ones don't. And I have like a cue cards somewhere in my house that I have like the best questions, and I've kind of tweaked them a lot. And it's awesome. It's like a really awesome book. It's very practical. You can go through it in like a day and just write down some of the favorite questions you have that applies to your industries. Okay, book number 4. Let's say, for example, you're at the end of the sales process and you've kind of nudged them over to your side a bit, but they're not fully convinced that they want to take the full step over. Maybe that looks like, you're negotiating with your girlfriend and she's like, okay, how about you choose where we go for dinner, but I choose the movie, right? The skills that are going to help you inside that situation is negotiate to close. This book is awesome. Negotiate to Close just gave me so many tactics that I could use that was mutually beneficial for both parties, because before reading this book, I was at a standstill. It was like, okay, he wants this, I want that, what do we do? Okay, bye. And then it would the conversation would end because there was no resolution. You as the salesman, you got to resolve it. You've got to be the one that drives the whole conversation and meet in a middle ground. And so I used this book to close one of my first big deals for $7,000, and it was a video offer I was selling to a dealership. And initially the guy was like, no, I'm not paying that. His problem was he just didn't want to pay it all up front without seeing the product first. So the way I negotiated was I said, okay, how about I can do this for you if you can give me something in return? And he's like, okay, what is it? And I said, I will break the payment up into 3 payments over 3 months. But after the first month, if you're happy with the service, you have to give me a raving video testimonial. And he's like, yeah, that works, absolutely. And then we shook hands and it was done. So a really great concept I got from this book was creating a give list, something that you can give the client in negotiations, and then creating a take list, something that you want in exchange, like a video testimonial. And then you just whip that out in negotiations if they're kind of giving you a back and forth sort of thing. Okay, the last book is the one that ties it all together. This is a modern sales book that goes through how you can go through the discovery to the proposal to the close. And I guarantee you, if you use all the other methods and mental models from the books before, and you just use this book as a bow to tie everything together, you will be a drastically different beast than every other remote sales rep that is out there. The book is called Gap Selling. If you're wondering why I don't actually have the book, it's because it's so good, I lent it out to a friend, okay? A lot of the modern books that you see on sales today are based on traditional sales, like dealerships and selling in real estate. But if you want to become a remote sales rep, you can't read all the standard books because they incentivize you to push and pressure, and oftentimes the leads that they're dealing with to sell these prospects are cold. They're not inbound. And the way that you approach an inbound lead who's coming to you asking for help versus someone who is just browsing on the street, or maybe you're cold calling them to make a deal happen, is just drastically different. Let me give you an example of what one of these differences might be. If you're in a sales conversation with an inbound lead, you can start the conversation with hey, what's the biggest challenge for you right now with X, whatever you're selling, weight loss or, your coaching or whatever it is. But if you ask that same question to an outbound lead, you're calling someone and that's the first question, they're going to be my biggest challenge, I don't have a challenge. You called me. Tell me what it is that you're trying to sell me, right? And so in that instance, you might want to start with their desires first, and you ask them, you know, what are you looking for? What's your biggest dream with this? Like, you don't start with the problem, you start with the desire. So it's just little key distinguishers like that. But if you're trained on that, reading all these books that are talking about that, like, you're going to be a little surprised when you enter the high ticket sales world and nothing is working for you. And bada bing, bada boom, those are the books. Guys, in the link in this bio, you can actually go and check out all those books on Amazon. And I've included 5 additional books that I think are really, really helpful in the high ticket space. If you're really trying to up your learning, read all of them. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This is Ethan E., your sales enthusiast man. Take it easy, guys.